Kyle Busch didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't say anything at all. And somehow that silence just exposed one of the biggest problems in NASCAR right now. Because while his team was falling apart on the radio, the entire garage heard it, and now NASCAR is stepping in. Here's what went down. At the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway, Kyle Busch had one of the worst runs of his season. Qualified 29th. Car was loose all race. Couldn't hold the corners. Dropped deep in the field running 26, 2 laps down. Then lap 3013 changed everything. Riley Herbst makes contact with Busch's left rear. Busch spins through traffic, and Busch says nothing, but his team completely unraveled. Crew chief Jim Pohlman and the spotter got into a heated argument over the radio broadcast live, picked up and now everywhere. Late in the race, Busch retaliates, spins Herbst, triggers a caution, forces overtime, finishes 25th. Afterward, NASCAR through managing director Brad Moran confirms no penalty, but says a conversation is coming. That's not discipline, that's a warning. This didn't come out of nowhere. This has been building for months. Busch hasn't won in 101 races, 0 top 10 finishes this season, sitting outside the playoff cut line. And the bigger shift, he lost longtime crew chief Randall Burnett, now replaced by Jim Pohlman, who's in his first Cup season calling shots. That matters more than people think. Crew chief driver chemistry is everything in NASCAR. It's communication, trust, and feel, especially when the car isn't right. Right now, that connection looks fractured, and inside the garage, people are noticing. Because when frustration hits the radio publicly, it's usually been boiling internally for weeks. Let's break this down at a high level. This isn't just about one bad race. This is about identity and whether this team still has one. First, Busch's silence. That's not normal. This is a driver known for being vocal, emotional, demanding. When things go wrong, he usually lets you know immediately. So when he says nothing, that tells you something deeper. Either he's completely checked out in that moment, or he doesn't believe communication is fixing anything anymore. Both are dangerous. Now look at the crew dynamic. When a crew chief and spotter start arguing mid-race, that's a breakdown in structure. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a lane. When those lanes blur, especially under pressure, you lose efficiency. And in NASCAR, seconds matter. Confusion costs track position costs races. Now layer in performance. Loose car all day, no adjustment working, repeated complaints. That signals either A, the setup direction is wrong, B, communication isn't translating into fixes, C, or both. And here's the bigger issue. This is happening repeatedly. Las Vegas, he called the car broken. Phoenix, multiple tire failures. Martinsville, nearly undrivable. At some point, this stops being random. This becomes systemic. Now let's talk about the retaliation. Busch spinning Herbst late, that's calculated. That's control frustration. NASCAR didn't penalize it, but the will talk message matters. Because the league is watching closely. They're not just monitoring the incident, they're watching how Busch handles adversity right now. And that ties into the long-term question, is this still a championship-level operation? Or is this a team losing control of its direction? The reaction has been split and intense. Some fans see a legend stuck in a broken system. They believe Busch still has it. But the car, the setup, the team around him isn't delivering. Others are starting to ask harder questions. Is this decline? Has the sport passed him? Is the adjustment to a new crew chief just not working? Media voices are turning up the pressure. Some insiders are openly questioning whether Busch and Childress Racing should move on from each other. Even fellow drivers are weighing in. There is respect, but also realism, because in this sport, results define everything. The team stabilizes. Pohlman and Busch find rhythm. Communication improves. Adjustments start hitting. Kansas becomes a reset point, and Busch fights his way back into playoff contention. Not dominant, but dangerous again. Nothing changes. Miscommunication continues. Results stay flat. Frustration builds. And by midseason, this turns into a serious conversation about Busch's future with limited options across the garage. At that point, it's not just a slump, it's a crossroads. So here's the question, what did that silence really mean? Was it control, or was it frustration hitting a breaking point? And bigger than that, is this something Kyle Busch can fix this season, or are we watching the beginning of the end of this partnership? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want wheel analysis without the noise, subscribe to SportsWire USA, because this story isn't slowing down, it's building.